What's up, people? It's Chris Gonzalez here on another Tuesday, and you know what that means. It's another episode of Trade Talk Tuesdays. And like I had mentioned last week, this week I'm going over Ultimate X-Men Volume 3, written and drawn by Peach Momoko. Again, this is part of the new Ultimate, well, somewhat new. It's about to end, but it's the new Ultimate line, not the original that came out during the early 2000s. But yeah, this again written and drawn by Peach Momoko, and the English script adaptation was done by Zach Davidson. Travis Lanham is the letterer, and Peach, she did the cover as well. I love Peach Momoko's artwork. I always try to get, if she does a variant cover, I try to get her variants. I like her aesthetic. Again, a very watercolor-esque and very heavy manga influence. I mean, it makes sense. She's from Japan, so I like that she's bringing those Eastern sensibilities to a Western American comic. I think that's really cool. And before I get into, the recapping of this trade and my thoughts on it, my initial overall thoughts, been loving this series. Again, I have not been collecting it in singles. I've been waiting on the trades for this. I did collect the first issue. I got all the issue ones of all the Ultimate titles, but yeah, I've heard mixed discourse about this. Traditional X-Men fans find it divisive. They don't feel like it's a good representation of the characters that they, grew up with. But I love that this book has been a bold swing, and I feel like this is the most creative book that Marvel's produced in a long time. It's crazy that they let Peach Momoko do her own complete reimagining of the X-Men, and I believe after reading, I reread Volume 2 in preparation to read this, and after reading that and this, I can say that this is definitely my favorite Ultimate book. And I just think I gotta praise Marvel for allowing Peach to do her thing in this. I mean, again, you're gonna get that typical Peach Momoko artwork, which is incredible, but the story is pretty much it's like a manga, a horror teen manga that follows these girls in high school, and I really think it's great. And but I get why people would have mixed opinions on it, especially reading it monthly. I'm not sure how I would feel about it if I read it on a month-to-month basis instead of binging it like 6 issues at a time. So I don't know, but it reads great as trade. So right off the bat, I definitely recommend anybody who hasn't read this to read it. If you like manga, if you enjoy anime, and if you just enjoy Peach Momoko's artwork, I definitely recommend this. And you don't have to know anything about the X-Men. It really stands on its own, and it doesn't really, it'll have some references to the other Ultimate books like Black Panther and Spider-Man, and but it really is its own thing. So I can't recommend this enough. So let's read the excerpt before I get into it. So for those who don't know, and again, there's going to be some slight spoilers of this comic. So a diabolical genius known as the Maker used time travel to create his ideal Earth by systematically preventing anyone from becoming a superhero, except for those on his secret Maker's Council, whom he stationed to rule over different regions of the world. Hai no Kuni, I probably butchered that pronunciation, aka it stands for the Land of the Sun, became one of the 2 hotbeds for mutant activity, but civilians were unaware until social media connected a body found in a suitcase, #MeCase, to a cult called the Children of the Atom, and that was covered in volume 2 trade paperback. So this led to a media frenzy surrounding the cult, as its members were identified as mutants who's been subjected to experimentation under their leader, the zealous Maester. And this Maester's character, he's like this universe's version of Mr. Sinister. So the Maester considered cult member Shinobu Kageyama, and this is this universe's Shadow King, to be particularly special. But when the cult was driven underground, Shinobu could focus only on his obsession with another mutant, Hisako Ichiki, and she is Armor. And by preying on Hisako's guilt surrounding her childhood friend's suicide, Shinobu engulfed her and her friends in shadow. So that's where this book left off at issue 12, and that was in the volume 2 trade paperback. The main protagonist that we were following, this girl, she is Armor, and yeah, the Shadow King of this universe is, a boy similar, around the same age as her, and yeah, he just pretty much possesses her. He takes over her using his abilities, and that's where it was left off, and now we're just jumping into it. And this by the way, this collects issues 13 through 18 of Ultimate X-Men. So I believe the next trade, volume 4, will be the last trade, and it'll collect the rest of the series. So it starts off because in issue 12, Hisaku, aka Armor, she was taken over by the Shadow King, and so like how it gives the cast. So this is Armor, this is her friend May, she goes by Maystorm. Nico Minoru, she's like a psychic. And then some other characters, Mori, she's also a mutant. You find out what her powers are later on in this volume. And this is Natsu, and she's like this world's version of Cyclops. Yukio is a streamer, she does like private investigating. This is the Shadow King, Shinobu, and this is the Maester. He's pretty much Mr. Sinister. So issue 13 starts off, you don't know what's going on, but look at this artwork. And this is Kanon? Not sure how you pronounce it, but she is this world's version of Cyclops. Or no, not Cyclops, Psylocke. And again, this is Natsu, Mori, and Nico. And so the issue starts with, you don't know where they're at, but the coloring, just look at how beautiful the colors are. This is the artwork you're gonna get with this book, and it's just very, very manga inspired. And so they're fighting, and you realize this is the Shadow Realm. So at first, when I started reading this after coming off issue 12, I'm like, what happened? It felt like it jumped, but it's for a good reason. So they're pretty much fighting in the Shadow Realm. The artwork's just, look at this. Man, this, I don't know how people don't like this, because this is what comics are about. Incredible artwork that just pushes the medium forward. And you can see Natsu again. This comic is it does reimagine new versions of classic X-Men characters. So this is Cyclops. This is this world's version of Cyclops. And I haven't finished reading Ultimate Wolverine, so I'm not sure if another version of Cyclops shows up. But yeah, but May is inspired by the ultimate version of Storm, so that's why she calls herself May Storm. She doesn't have all the powers of the weather. I know she can control wind, and she can control wind, slightly rain, but her powers aren't she's not as powerful as Storm. So they fight. They continue to fight, and then Psylocke be that version of Psylocke is. She has like Yakuza tattoos on her arm. So this is, again, look at how good this artwork is. So you don't know what's going on. And then, so this whole issue is just that fight, but at the end you realize that Mr. Sinister and they did indeed capture Hisaku, and now they're doing experiments. So they're in, I'm not sure if it was all in Shadow King's head. I believe it was. So they're experimenting, and they believe the Shadow King with his DNA, and they try to, I'm not sure exactly what the villains are trying to find, but they're mixing DNA of different mutants to, you know, come up with the ultimate mutant power. That's what I'm getting. You see, this is start of issue 14. It's Mr. Sinister, and then one of Viper. She is part of the Maker's Council, who rules over this region of the world. And again, the artwork, insane. So, not gonna lie, it gets really weird in this volume. Like these set of issues, you don't know what's real, what's not, like, and it jumps around in time. But apparently, Hisaku, they kidnapped her after the Shadow King possessed her, and she had been gone for months. Like her friends didn't know where she was, her family doesn't know. So her friends, throughout this volume, they're trying to find out. They're trying to rescue her, find out where she is. And then, yeah, because I believe this color palette that Peach Momoko is using, I think this represents, when it's in this color palette, it represents them being in the Shadow Realm. And it just, you know, the Shadow King is manipulating armor, using her guilt, because this is her friend. This is like a representation of her friend that committed suicide in middle school, and Hisaku feels so guilty. And it actually goes into why she felt so guilty. Like, look, so this boy, he gives Hisaku this totem, and Hisaku loses it, but somebody finds it, and this kid, he gets bullied at school, and when they try to give Hisaku back the totem that he gave her, she denies that it's hers, and that kind of leads, Hisaku feels guilty that she did that. See, she says, it's not mine, and her friend, yeah, so, but the Shadows King is using that, look at that. Look at this artwork, man. Like, this is like, I can't believe, like, I'm surprised Marvel's even producing this book. Like, they play it so safe with other titles, but with this, they just let Peach Momoko just go crazy. So, it goes back and forth. And then in May, she's starting to create a team of other mutants so they can stop the Children of the Atom, because they're giving mutants a bad name in the public. So, and May doesn't even tell her friends that she's doing this. So Kanan and Mori, they infiltrate their meeting, and they tell her, like, we know it's you, May. We need to find Hisaku. So yeah, they're just telling her how they're gonna find Hisaku, and it's actually, they're in the astral plane. That's what it is. They're not the shadow. I mean, it's the Shadow Realm, it's the astral plane. They're in there. I like that. After each issue gives you some sketches that Peach Momoko's done. As the story continues again, Nico, she infiltrates the cult to find more information on the potential whereabouts of Hisaku. And then she goes through the initiations, and then she overhears the maester talking with Viper, and then there's another girl. I forgot her name, but her mutant name is Surge. So she's a part of the cult too. She's kind of lost, but she's on the other side of things. She's not trying to stop the maester. She's been manipulated. And again, they're keeping the children of the Atom cult. They're keeping Shinobu locked up, and they're using his power. And yeah, like I said, this book gets really weird. Like, this guy's name's Akiro. They're experimenting on him as well. It kind of gives an homage of that X-Men cover where Wolverine's tied up on the X. Forgot what issue that is, but look at this. Look at it all. It gets weird, y'all. This book is really weird. And then Kanan, her brother, is a former cop. And then Kanan and her brother found the suitcase with the dead body, so that's how that all started. But his ex-girlfriend, her name is, what is her name? But she's this version's of Rogue. This universe's version of Rogue, pretty much. Anyway, we'll go back to her. But anyway, so Nico and Mori, again, this is it in this volume, it keeps going back and forth in time, but it shifts back when Nico and Mori, they're investigating, because at the time Armor, she was staying at Nico's house, so they go back and they realize that she's gone. They link up with Rogue, and initially they don't trust her, but then, they figure out they're out for the same thing. They want to stop the children of the Atom. And then again, Nico's still doing her investigating on her own from the inside of the cult. And then she gets into it with Surge. And Nico's talking her shit in here. So she just beat Surge's butt pretty much. And then she flies up. And then Surge is like, "You can fly." And then Nico's like, "Can you not? How sad. Perhaps I am the real Homo Superior." And then other mutants in the cult, they stop Nico. But yeah, man, I believe this is a really good story, and anybody who's not reading it should definitely read it. If you want something new and refreshing out of Marvel that you haven't been getting reading the mainline stuff, definitely you have to check this out. Like, I can't, it's just Peach. Look at this. Again, and I get why that people might find it divisive, because I'm not sure how it's been reading on a month-to-month basis. Maybe you can get a little boring, I can see that, but reading it by trade is, I think, the ideal situation. So eventually they all infiltrate the Children of the Atom's base that they're in right now, and then they find Hisaku. She's still in a mental battle with the Shadow King. Other mutants get involved, and then eventually they're able to stop the Shadow King, get their friend back, get her out of the whatever control she was under from the Shadow King. It gets weird. Towards the end, I was like, what is going on? Like, what? Yeah, it gets really weird, but I'm digging it. I'm really digging it. And then, so eventually Armor, she goes back to face the Shadow King once and for all, and she disappears. Her friends don't know where she's at, but yeah, they eventually confront the Maester, aka this version's Mr. Sinister, and his whole thing is like he tastes their blood and he gains the powers by tasting the blood. So, and we find out that Mori, her power is that you cut her limbs and she regenerates. The whole time this streamer has been following along and pretty much updating this girl right here. I think her name is Yukio. I believe it's Yukio. So she's been investigating on the side about the mutants and the children of the atom and what's been going down. So yeah, they eventually go back to the middle school that Hisako's friend went to and that they went to, and in the area where he committed suicide, because it all stems from that moment of that kid committing suicide. Like that created the ripple effect and the domino. So they go back and see how they can find their friends. And yeah, it just gets weird, but I'm definitely digging it. And then it's revealed that Mr. Sinister does more experiments on Surge, and he's looking more and more like his normal 616 counterpart. And that's where it ends. So again, that was Ultimate X-Men Volume 3, The Realm of the Mind. Very, very trippy. I can't highly recommend this run enough. I can't wait until it's in an omnibus so I can just marvel at Peach Momoko's artwork. So again, if you like anime, if you're into manga, definitely this is the book for you. And even if you're not, if you want something new out of your Marvel comics, I think this is the most creative book that they've made in quite a while. And shout out to Peach Momoko. She's done the writing and the artwork she's going to be doing it for all 24 issues straight. That's crazy. Not many creators do that nowadays. So shout out to her, and shout out to Marvel for, letting her do her thing. And this is it's the most different and it's the most creative book out of the new Ultimate line. And yeah, couldn't recommend this enough. So that was it. Again, that's my recap and my thoughts about Volume 3. So thank you for those who have watched. Let me know if you've been reading Ultimate X-Men by Peach Momoko. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. And for next week, for the next episode of Trade Talk Tuesdays, I'm going to be going over Absolute Martian Manhunter, another, I think, genre-defining comic right now. I know it's still early, but I think what they're doing, Deniz Camp and Javier Rodriguez on art, I think they're creating something really special. So be on the lookout for that. It comes out this week, but I'm going to go over it next week. And yeah, again, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And that is it. And I'm out. Peace.